Guys, what's going on? I am going to be streaming a little bit today. I'm working on this piece. You can see I've got some reference over here to the side, and yeah, I'm just going to be kind of working through it. I wanted to use this Greg Capullo spawn illustration over here to help me with the wings because I felt like the wings that I was drawing were a little bit weak. But you can see I've spent a good amount of time on the wings. I got some good attention that I put into the armor. Still working through the armor. And yeah, I just finished up some freelance stuff not too long ago. And so I'm kind of getting back into the groove of things. I'm just going to work on this for the next hour or so. And yeah, anybody who comes and joins the chat, make sure to say hello and let me know what you're working on if you're an artist or what you think about the tarot if you're more of a tarot type of person. All this stuff is going to be I'm putting together my own little selection of tarot illustrations, and I'm focusing on the major arcana. So this is going to be the strength card, and so I think it's coming together pretty well. It's definitely pushed me to try to understand a little bit more about how to create material types of texture, like you see here on the armor, which still needs some work. But I think I did pretty good with this guy down here too. I think he's got a pretty gruesome looking face. So I still got a little ways to go, but I think I think we'll be pushing through a good amount um, of the wings. I want to finish up this area of the wings and add some color in, and then I'm going to revisit everything up here, redo the face, redo the face, and yeah, just get everything colored. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So if I'm to talk a little bit about my process, and I'm looking at this reference over here, obviously I don't want to copy this reference one to one, although the composition of the wings, I definitely followed Greg Capullo's example of this. But when you look at this example over here, and this is something that I'm still trying to master. As you can see, he keeps his darks in very specific areas, and then he loosens things as it goes down to the point where at the bottom there's not even any line work in this center area where he's put his name in McFarlane. Right, so I guess both of them worked on this. But I think that's pretty crucial because it helps with the sense of depth, right? Like you can see that this is obviously in the foreground, this wingspan that is coming out of the right side of his body and on the left side of the picture here. You can definitely see that that is in the foreground, and he's allowing this kind of this this lost edge to kind of cover the bottom of Spawn, but also to start removing the line work and start making the lines, a little bit more broken up as it goes further down. And this is to keep our attention up here. The darkest shapes and the most amount of detail is really around the wings, obviously, and on the body, which is where it is that he wants us to look. But I remember I got this this comic when I was a kid, and I remember drawing this. I remember drawing this comic and or this comic cover, and just really, really loving everything Greg Capullo was doing. So yeah, yeah, I'm taking a look at that. Another thing it is that you can notice is that when you actually look at the wings, a lot of them are broken up, right? Whereas one of the things I noticed that I started to do that I want to undo is, I want to break up these harsh lines. These lines, some of these lines are just way too thick, and it makes it look um, kind of stiff, and it makes it look kind of amateurish, right? Like these wings should be overlapping with one another, and so since they're overlapping with one another, they need to they kind of feel like they flow together rather than a bunch of individual things that are just kind of floating around out here. Yeah, this is the process. At times, drawing like this can be, I don't want to say tedious, but it can definitely feel like, man, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of refining. It's a lot of figuring out what works and what doesn't. And here pretty soon, I'm going to be putting together more tutorials for people that like those. You know, maybe I'll even document my transition into the next version of who I will become as an artist, as a human being. What I feel like I'm doing here on this channel. For those that haven't checked them out yet, I have a playlist that I've been building up, which is on the symbolism of the tarot. And I think the symbolism of the tarot it's really interesting as an artist to understand, because if you understand why the tarot is so popular, then you can kind of take those secrets and take that understanding and apply it to your own work. But it's also considered the book of life, and the book of life is a representation. It's a visual representation of everything it is that a human being can experience in life. And that's what makes the tarot so interesting, because it's a visual representation of everything that one can experience in life. And so, because of this, there's a lot of lessons to be learned, not just as an artist creatively, but just as a human being in general. The tarot deck that I'm doing the analysis on is called the Rider Waite deck. And the Rider Waite deck is essentially one of the most published pieces of art that has ever existed. It's had 100 million reprints. So if you think about that, that's pretty insane. I mean, the only reprints that have been at that level have come from the Bible, Harry Potter, Alice in Wonderland. So that tells you right there that what it is that is being communicated in the tarot is it's striking a chord with people. It's connecting deeply with the subconscious mind of the human being, to the point where you could have 100 million reproductions of the tarot cards, and it is still being reproduced today. Now, it's not the original tarot cards, not the first set of tarot cards that was ever created, but it is the most famous. It is the most famous. So this video streaming thing I'm going to be doing, I'm also going to be talking a lot about my process as an artist. I think I've kind of slipped in the amount of videos it is that I've produced lately just because of a number of different things. Partly because I don't know how much of a reach I've had recently. I don't see a lot of people checking out my stuff, and I think that definitely kind of affected me after a while. I'd like to say that it didn't, but truth be told, doing videos and making stuff, it takes time. It takes time to put videos together, and when you see it not really clicking, you start wondering, like, should I even continue doing this? Is this something that people want? Like, what's the point of this? You know? So, yeah. But I think I've decided that this is the way that I want to communicate what I do. And, I want to do more videos. I want to connect with more people about the power of art and really share what it is that I've come to understand about what art is. I think that there's a lot of educators on YouTube or elsewhere that really just focus on the technique. And the technique is important, but the truth is you can kind of get that anywhere and you can kind of teach it to yourself. It's not um, but that's not really what art is just about. I think that in a lot of ways um, we've kind of been hypnotized by the way that people like digital marketing people talk about things uh, that has influenced the way that we think about art, right? We think about art in terms of how much money can I extract from this practice, which is totally understandable. Believe me, I'm somebody who's actually living on the streets right now, building what it is that I'm building right now, and it ain't fun. Um, but it's a part of the process for me because I have to be able to dedicate my entire life to this. So I understand the need to monetize things, and I understand the need to take care of adult things and not wanting to waste your time doing something that isn't gonna pay the bills. I can totally understand that. However, art has a higher calling than making money. Art is about an inner transformation that happens inside of you. And as you transform inside of yourself, then reality itself begins to change. Because what it is that we live in is like a giant mirror reflection of what it is that's going on inside of us. And so I'm well aware that as I change my own internal perspective on things, that my external circumstance has to change. And just because we're going through something difficult right now doesn't mean that it doesn't have its place in the process, you know. Essentially, in order to go down a path of doing something creative, you have to have a great amount of faith in what you're doing. It has to be something that you do from your heart. And our society, because of the demands of society, it has led us to believe um, that anything from the heart is fundamentally useless. You know, I mean, if you really consider it, everything in our society is about exploiting us. It's about basically using us and then throwing us throwing us away. Every little aspect of society uh, is 100% geared to trying to extract as much money out of you as humanly possible. You know, even it comes down to the jobs that we do. You know, we do the jobs not because it's something that we believe in. We do something because it is, um, you know, necessary to pay the bills. It's necessary to do these things. But like I said, I understand that. But at the same time, ultimately, this can really uh, destroy our soul. You know, you can feel it when you go and you do something it is that you don't want to do. You can feel it whenever it is that you feel like you're you're doing something that you don't agree with, but you're pushing yourself to do it. It's really a terrible thing that we do to ourselves. It's really a violence to the soul. And so even if you have to go through a phase that feels dark, it feels like you're wandering through the darkness, that's really a part of the adventure of trying to do something creative. You know, like I said, I talked about this on Instagram at one point, but you know, I'm basically in the United States right now, and I'm homeless, basically living out of a tent and living off of the graces of God. But you know, I'm also, but you know, I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity because I can at least spend my time doing the things it is that matter to me. I can focus my time specifically on that rather than doing something just to get by, right? I mean, we have been tricked into selling our life away to the lowest bidder. You know, we've been tricked into thinking that our creative power doesn't mean anything. You know, we've been lied to about who it is that we are, and our attention has been exploited and manipulated in order to steal that creative energy away from you, in order for somebody else to use it to create the world it is that they want to create. I think that we underestimate how powerful our ability to speak things into existence is. You know, we look at you look at everything that's going on in the world, the social media, the different things that are uh, being revealed to us, and you can see that all of it is just about capturing your attention. All of it is just about manipulating you in some way in order to get something out of you. You know, even dating has been turned into this. You look at the dating apps, and what are the dating apps about? The dating apps are just another form of a subscription service, right? And they've taken what used to be relationships used to just be about finding somebody that you can have a genuine connection with, and they've turned it into a business model. You know, did casual dating exist before Tinder existed, or did Tinder create the term of casual dating in order to sell people an app, and they created this whole thing of this whole idea of dating, right? And there's so many examples of this, like everybody has their all these different systems that have been put into place to basically exploit people and to use them like a subscription service. The pharmaceutical industry, mass media, all these different things. And because of this, because of the jobs it is that we do, because we need the paycheck, and because of the amount of times it is that we're targeted and exploited, we become further and further away from ourselves. And the further away from ourselves that we become, the more we suffer. And so art is not about getting an end result that you want. It's about returning to yourself. It's about returning to the solace inside of yourself. Yep, so we're just making our way down. Again, I'm looking at the way that he does, the way that he just kind of loses these lines down here. And I think that's what I need to do. I think that these need to be kind of more of just like a suggestion and kind of break this stuff up a little bit. Maybe these big black shapes down here shouldn't be so big either. So a lot of the time, what I like to do is I like to make sure every aspect of the piece is designed, but you also want to make it feel like it fits in with the whole. And so being able to pull back a little bit and look at everything and see how it sits on the page, where your eye goes to, will really help you. Because I definitely feel like it's a little bit busy with the amount of detail that the wings are providing. And then you can see there's certain spots like right here on this area near the knee, like right here, you can see it sticks out like a sore thumb. So that's why I need to go back in here and get this detail and at least even it out a little bit. And really, he's not even really drawing the individual feathers. It just makes what I'm doing look kind of silly, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So yeah, like I was saying, art is something we do for the sake of it. Just like finding our own form of happiness and joy, we do that for the sake of it. We don't do it to get something out of it. I think some of these look too much like leaves or something. I'll kind of make them a little bit longer. So, yeah, I guess what I want to share, and maybe I'll make another video about this. Yo, Vidvat, how you doing? Good to see you here. I don't know if you're still in here or not. I don't think my thing is keeping up to date. Yeah, so being being homeless, it's interesting because I realized before I was homeless, I was scared to make the moves that I make now because I thought that it would be a risk and that I would lose my money. And I got so good, you can hear me. And I got so afraid of losing everything that I did end up losing everything. And then I realized that um, then I was afraid of not having anything. But I discovered that when you don't have anything, you're actually at your most powerful point because there's really nothing for you to lose. And that's when I started to make a lot of really bold decisions with what it is that I'm doing. And I can feel that things are changing for me. Things are moving in the direction I want them to go in. And even when I had a lot of money, I still wasn't able to make those moves. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna get back to it. At one point I was streaming pretty regularly, and then I started doing the more edited videos. But I think I want to do kind of more of the streaming and more of like just kind of talking off the top of my head. Because otherwise, doing a lot of edited videos, it just takes so much time away from me doing the creative thing. You know what I mean? What are you up to today? Are you working on your game? For those who are going to tune into this at a later time, uh, Vidbot is a game developer, and he just released his game, and very cool to see. So he's in the chat. You got to go check his channel out. Nice, nice. Are you still in Bangkok, or did you move off? Right on. Yeah, man. I don't know how you can stand being in Bangkok. Honestly, I would need nature so bad. I would go to Bangkok to visit my ex, and every time I would, I'd run away from there as quick as I could. The city is just like, it's so overwhelming. I'm like, wow, I have to be in nature. I have to have some nature in my life every day. If I don't, I'll just go totally crazy. Yeah, I know. I saw that you've been streaming pretty regularly too. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, like, if as long as you're working, then it doesn't really matter. But I guess I'm just kind of surprised because I think of like, man-made buildings and stuff like that. If you really think about it, they're energetically dead. You know what I mean? Like they have no energy in them. And so it's just really weird that we spend all our time kind of like in these energetically dead environments, and we don't even realize the effect it's having on us. Like since I've been in Austin, I've been camping out. I don't know if you heard me mention that earlier, but I've been camping basically in the woods, and man, I swear I get so much better sleep just being in nature, and I never really realized how much I was missing that in my life. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I enjoy Bangkok like in small amounts. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not suggesting to rough it out. Um, I'm definitely not suggesting that. I wouldn't tell anybody to do what I'm doing. What I'm doing is just insanity, but it's working. I'm just totally insane, I guess. Yeah, I'm definitely not telling anybody how to live their life. I don't know what I'm doing half the time anyway. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's only one way to go, and that's up. And I'm definitely not, even though I'm back here in Austin and it's nice to be home, I'm definitely not interested in setting down roots here. You know, my roots will bring me back to Asia by the end of the year, I can tell. Yeah. Yeah. I think my only problem with setting down roots in Thailand would be the smoky season. Like living in Bangkok will not ever be a thing that I will ever do. And it's really sad that Chiang Mai gets hit with that smoky season every year. You know what I mean? So are you still learning Japanese? Are you gonna go to Japan? Because I'm still learning it. I haven't been doing it the last couple of weeks. I've been busy with freelance and other stuff. But yeah, what do you do? Do you watch stuff or do you do like some app or something? Yeah, yeah, I do the apps, and then I have Renshu. That was a pretty good app. I don't know if you heard of that one. Yeah, you gotta use it. It involves talking to people. I know, right? It's not it's not always what creative people are all about. It's like, oh shit, I have to go outside and talk to people. Yeah, it is true. Yeah, it is a bottleneck. That is true. But you got plenty of people to chat with and whatnot in Bangkok, I'm sure, because people speak English there for the most part. It seems like if you wanted to deal with people anyway. So that's the good thing about Bangkok, I guess. Well, whenever you were in Tokyo, did a lot of people speak English, or was mostly Japanese? Really? That's interesting. See, I would have imagined that Tokyo would be just more of like something similar to Bangkok, you know? I mean, I think Tokyo is like one of the biggest cities in the world, right? So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my problem with setting down roots in Thailand too. It's like if I know too many people there in Thailand, then maybe I'll be too inclined to stay there and never go to Japan. I think when I go to Japan, I will definitely put in effort to learn more of the language and make more of a network. It'll kind of inspire me to stay around. Yeah, Asia is looking very appealing to me right now. Can't wait to go back. Yeah, yep. And the vibe is exactly what you want. I loved being in Chiang Mai, man. Chiang Mai is just I feel like that's my second home. I think Austin is great, but the vibe is not anywhere near the same. I'm not disrespecting Austin. Austin's great, but it's definitely very different. The States is very different right now for various reasons. You know, there was like, yeah, it's chill. It's very chill. I mean, there's lots of cool people here, and I guess it's progressive, so there's that as well. You know, it's not like the rest of Texas, which is very, uh, I guess you could say very conservative and boring. But I have noticed since I came back that at least the United States doesn't really have that kind of quality of exploring things the way it is that Asia does. You know, like my favorite times in Chiang Mai, and when I go to Chiang Mai, you got to come up there and visit me because chances are I will not go to Bangkok. But if you were to come and visit me, I would take you on a hike up into the mountains and take you to like these little villages that are like hidden up in the mountains. I remember I discovered one like basically all on my own. It was like there was this trail that was behind this Buddhist meditation center, and people told me that there was like a village up at the top, and it would take like 2 or 3 hours to hike it. And I hiked all the way up there, and I get up there, and I sit down and have a cup of coffee with this guy, and he starts telling me that he's basically a pastor for this village. You know, like he ran the local church there at this village. And he starts telling me about the history of the village, and they weren't Thai people. They were like they were a different denomination, but essentially they were Christians that were being persecuted in China, and so they had run away into the mountains of like Southeast Asia. So there was apparently like all sorts of communities that were in Vietnam and in Cambodia and in Thailand that were just kind of hidden um, in these different areas. And I just thought that was really interesting, you know, to run into something like that just on a day hike. And in the States, you just there's it's just like a strip mall, man. I mean, it's like it's very dystopian and in the worst way. It's like you try to go and explore. Austin has a lot of things to do in it, but it's still nothing like what Asia provides. Yeah, yeah, those trails will go like way, way far. Like you can go so far into those trails and find all sorts of different villages and and people living like the kind of I guess they're called the Hmong people, right? Did you ever go and see the Long Neck tribe? Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it has a cool international vibe, but there's so much exploitative shit that goes on here in the States that it's just it's really hard on people. I think I think that's really the issue with the States. Oh man, yeah, you got to go and check out maybe when I come there we can go and check that out. You'd like that. It's pretty cool. Go and see like the long neck people with their rings around their neck and stuff like that. Yeah. So you're going to be upgrading your game with new content. That's a pretty cool strategy. I mean, I feel like that's such an awesome thing that indies can do to like differentiate themselves from the big publishers, you know, because the big publishers, big developers, they just want to nickel and dime people for eternity. You know what I mean? And turn everybody into a subscription service. But I like what you're doing, where you're just creating stuff and you just keep putting it out there, and you know how Mashika is. Yeah, Yeah, if somebody's watching this, go check out Tamashika on Steam. Wow, that's cool, man. So you're just in the zone creating. Do you really feel like Tamashika is like another like parallel version of yourself or something? Do you feel like you're being communicated with something or you just say that as metaphorical? Yeah. Yeah, I read a couple of your blog entries. You're a really good writer too. A good game dev and good writer as well. Which makes sense because you know how to craft an experience for somebody. And I think writing is just that, it's just crafting an experience for somebody in order for them to experience what you're trying to communicate. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like the more that I open up to my creativity, the more different channels kind of want to come through, whether it's like writing. I think writing is a big one, but I have a lot of other interests of things it is that I want to do as well. Yeah. I feel like writing is the most underrated of all of it though. I feel like writing and reading is so underrated in the creative process, but just in life in general, you know. Yeah. What else? I mean, I definitely want to try my hand at game development at some point. I just don't want to bite off too much, you know. And I'm going back through right now. I'm going back through the Philip K. Dick comics, and I'm gonna remake the first one that I did because the art is so bad. I'm working on that, and then I do want to explore some more video stuff at some point. I've got these videos on the tarot that I'm working on, and then obviously these tarot illustrations. So, but yeah, if I could look back on, like writing books, like I wrote that little book, which people can get in my link tree, that Invisible Work of Artists. And that was like 49 pages. That was a pretty powerful experience. So I definitely like to write more books as well at some point, even if they're just like short little 50 pages, 100 pages, little ebooks or something. Yeah, writing is very powerful. I feel like, yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, my experience of this last year, I tried to make writing and reading like a daily habit, and I gotta say, I've slipped. I've definitely slipped. But I've been pretty much consistent with it. Maybe not daily, but I've been consistent with it. But the experience of reading has been really interesting because I started to think that a really good book is almost like an altered state that you experience with someone else in this very like intimate way because it requires so much effort to actually sit down and read something. And the books that I'm drawn to are always very synchronistically connected to whatever I'm going through, you know? And so it feels like, like some sort of a psychedelic trip or something. You're like, wow, this person knows exactly what it is that's happening inside of me right now. There's a writer named uh, Haruki Murakami. He's a Japanese writer. I think you would like his stuff. His stuff is really he's kind of like a Japanese Philip K. Dick a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Writing absolutely does that. Yep. There's something about it that changes your consciousness, you know. Oh yeah, um so 1Q84 it's almost like 1,000 pages long. And I never thought that I would read a book that would be that long. But I was obsessed with that book. Like it's one of those books that, or he's one of those writers that when you sit down and you read his stuff, like you'll just kind of fall into it and you'll just live with those characters for a while. That book is really amazing. And I don't even want to tell you anything about it, but if you have the guts to jump into a book that's almost 1,000 pages long, it will resonate with you 100% because it's essentially the awakening. Essentially a story about awakening, but that's all I'll say about it. Yeah, that's the longest one I read of his. Yeah, it is intimidating. But like I said, until you find somebody who writes a damn good book that's 1,000 pages long, I think it's like 900 pages or something like that. Um, but it seems intimidating, but you'll be surprised because I'm not somebody like I said. The idea of reading 1,000 page book a year ago would have been like, fuck no, I'm not going to do that. But it was totally worth it. Yeah, for me, it was one of those books that hit me right in the right in the point where I was going through a lot of things, and I was like, holy shit, this book is like so on point. So I would like to write some fiction like that, and then obviously make some comics and stuff. Clive Barker is another really good writer. He's the guy who created Hellraiser. He's a really good example of like an artist that I would like to kind of pattern myself after because he's a painter. He's a painter. He's a writer. He's also done film, and I think he's done like plays and stuff like that. Like he directed the first Hellraiser movie, the only good Hellraiser movie outside the Hulu reboot's pretty good, but the original Hellraiser, he wrote it and he directed it, and that was the first movie he ever directed, and it was like a huge hit. It's like one of the most classic horror movies ever. Um, but yeah, he's also a painter and he's a damn good writer. There's a book called Damnation Game by him. It's like a really dark, brutal story. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's one of those like super creative people. Like he's also done stuff in games as well. Like he's written stuff for a couple of different games. He's had some of his properties turned into games, and he's always been like super involved in it. Like if you look up the Jericho or Clive Barker's Undying, like there's some really cool YouTube videos kind of covering the history of the stuff he did in video games. His name is Clive Barker. I'll type it into the chat. Yeah, but he's done everything. He's written novels. He has like a whole house full of like these really crazy looking paintings. Um, and I'll send you a video of some of the stuff of like people doing retrospectives on him. He's still alive, but like I think he just did his last public appearance that he'll ever do because his health is failing, which is really sad. But he's a huge inspiration for sure. Just super creative guy. But yeah, yeah. I think there's just so many creative ideas in novels that you can easily just take and adapt or get inspiration from for a game, you know, or for a book or comic or something. There are a lot of really good ones out there. Oh, really? You never done that? Oh, I got an awesome manga recommendation for you. I got two. I'm gonna have to review these on my channel at some point. If you want some really good manga to read, you got to check out Junji Ito, which I know you know who Junji Ito is, right? He's the really famous Japanese horror manga artist. But he did an adaptation of I think it's called No Longer Human. He did an adaptation of No Longer Human into a manga, which No Longer Human is like one of the most famous. Yeah, Akira is really great. Akira is a great manga. Um, but it's one of the most famous Japanese novels, and it's another one of these. It's an awakening story. Again, it's another awakening story, which I find that you see that a lot in Japanese novels and in Japanese manga. They have a lot of these awakening, these spiritual awakening stories, but the way it is that they tell it is not the way it is that you would expect. Because No Longer Human, uh, it's just so brutal. I mean, it's basically about this guy who he tries to. I'm not going to spoil it, but like he grows up. He's an artist, and he grows up in this very repressed, very strict household in Japan. And he's trying to figure out who it is that he is, but he's constantly taken advantage of and abused by people around him, by the adults and whatnot. And this kind of leads him into this dark path in life. And he tries to kill himself multiple times, and he fails, but he ends up ruining the lives of everybody around him. Um, and then through the process of that, he has like this spiritual awakening. That's a really good one. No Longer Human by Junji Ito. That one just completely blew my mind. And I'd also say, um, I think you spell it homunculi is another one. Homunculi, I think that's what it's called. But it's basically about this guy. It's another awakening story. I just read the first volume of it. Again, you could identify with it so well. It's basically about this guy who's homeless. He's homeless, and he gets approached by this guy who says, "Oh, I have an opportunity for you to make some money. I want to basically drill a hole in your head and remove the just the tip of your skull, like just the top of it, kind of like the way a baby has like an opening in their head. And I want to see if you can see ghosts because it's a process called trepidation or something like that. And so he removes that part of the skull from the guy, and he begins to see uh, the true nature of every person that he interacts with. And like I said, I'll leave it at that. But all three of those stories you would love. They're all really cool and totally in line with everything we talk about for sure. I'll find links and send them to you or something. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when you like take up if you take up reading stuff as like a regular thing, you will encounter stories where you're like, holy shit, this is 100% my experience. And the brutal honesty that he tells in No Longer Human is, I mean, I want to talk to somebody about the story, but I have not found anybody who's read it. So if you get a chance, please pick it up because I want to hear other people's thoughts about it because there's some scenes in there that are so fucked up, but they're so relatable. I have to restrain myself from spoiling it. It's definitely one of the books the first experience you have with it is just gonna blow your mind. Yep, No Longer Human. Yeah. Are you watching anything lately? I haven't checked out that Backrooms movie yet, but I saw that guy he created like the whole set in Blender before they built it like physically. And apparently like he's huge into video games, right? Because he's like one of the youngest film directors ever to do as successful as he's done. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you have a backlog of things to do. I guess you just most of your time is spent on game dev stuff, huh? Do you get a chance to play anything these days, or do you just pour all your energy into Tamashika? What games are you playing right now, or what would you play? Oh, okay. That sounds kind of familiar. Yep. So I think I'm closing in on an hour. I've got to make a little bit of a run here in a little bit. I want to try to make this a regular thing. So if you want to come and hang out, I'm sure you're busy a lot of the time, but you're always welcome to come and hang out. And I appreciate you coming on here. I'm not just speaking into the void. I think I'll have to call this stream for now. Cool, man. Thank you so much. And anybody who's watched this, you can check out some of my other work as well as my book and stuff like that in the link tree links in the description. And thanks, guys. Take care.